obviously having to deal with the death of someone I was mentoring as well. Yeah, yeah, obviously it wasn't good. It was hard, and it may have been hard and stuff, and a lot of strain and stuff, having to juggle a few things. And of course, I took on doing an extra job to keep the pennies rolling in. But the fact of the matter is, and whilst what I was feeling was valid compared to what obviously his wife and kid were going through, I'm not trying to play down what I was feeling, but it doesn't compare.
Welcome to the Travel Business Mentor podcast, brought to you by travelbusinessmentor.com. I'm the guy who brings you the tips and the story. Yes, it's me, Dan Ori. Today, starting a travel business with my very special guest. Chuck, what's your name and where do you come from?
Uh, Hi everyone, I'm Marwan Awar, and I'm from Brighton.
Oh, Brighton. So, same as me, just down the road. So, we're only a few miles apart. And for those of you that don't know Marwan, he's been in the travel industry some good deal of time now and a real mentor to many. Uh, an avid traveler. He's just got back from from a trip. Feels like whenever we speak, he's always unpacking or packing a suitcase or a backpack. So it's fantastic to have you on the podcast, and really excited to explore a few things. And Marvin, I'm going to share yours. We're going to sort of talk about your story, share your story, a little bit of mine because they overlap, which is fantastic. We're going to talk about what options there are to starting a travel business, explore the different models, and we're going to, sort of do that all the while gently weaving through the podcast, talking about the challenges and triumphs that you've experienced. So, yeah, Marwin, tell me, today you're an independent travel agent and a mentor supporting agents. Where did this all start?
It's a good question. So this probably started about 2015 or 16 time. Um, so so obviously for context, so although I was born and brought up in Brighton, my heritage is Lebanese. So as a kid, I would go back to Lebanon every summer to see family. So that every summer holidays. So it was kind of like is I wouldn't say routinal, but back obviously then going to school, in the 90s, whatever, and the noughties, it was kind of like a routinal thing, just going there and whatnot. So I think when I started, so I think towards the end of university, up until the mid 2010s, my travel had lessened and whatnot, and and I think around the early 2010s, you kind of started popping off, seeing people traveling the world. Instagram started to become big, and it's where that generation sort of would took those really good photos of the beaches and the iconic places worldwide. And remember thinking as I was working out of university that I just wanted to save up and travel the world. There's a whole world out there, um, different cultures, different foods, different languages, people, and it's really good to obviously immerse ourselves within those. We can learn so much off others and everything, and
So,
and
so
of
you
course,
wanted to travel, Martin. You wanted to travel, right? And
yeah.
you're at uni thinking how, and there's this whole social world out there. Did you get into travel straight away, or did you do other things? Where did you go in life from uni?
Oh, so all sorts. I worked in um, I worked in a restaurant as a waiter for about 6 months part time. And then out of that, I then moved into sort of sales and marketing, quality control. Worked in health and wellness, had a online business in that, and then yeah, and then moved into travel off that. Fast forward, the travel bug really caught me on a trip to Barcelona for a convention with this health and wellness business that I was with. And the whole bug of even solo traveling. And one day I got a LinkedIn message from someone saying to me, we've got this, we've got this opportunity where you can earn money as well as from your travels and everything, as well as enjoying travel and helping others to the same. And great. I do enjoy helping people as well as enjoying life. So let's take more of a look into it. So I'd started off in a previous travel company before I started with the one that we're both at. And it gave me a taste more for the industry and whatnot. And things happened and whatnot, and I'd moved over to the one we're currently at, and
What was it
for
like
that
at the
first
beginning
year.
when you moved? Yeah, what was it like that
Yeah,
first sort of time you just moved into this new company? You've been in a previous one, and you've had experience of industries and things like that. What was it like? Was it an and I actually know the answer to this, but for the audience, was it a new start? Was it an established company? What were things like? Were there lots of systems in place?
so yeah, it was a well-established company. So the company had at the time 25 years behind them. They were the first company to have created the concept of a home-based home working travel agency, the first one. So that already had some sort of strength behind it as well. Um, they had the systems in place in the US because they are a US based company, but just moved in and had an office in the UK, but they didn't have everything that was required as of yet. So so we didn't have the travel agency that we have nowadays that we enjoyed. We had what's called a travel club. Think World Ventures, for example, and we had something similar. So then up until we could create something that that could become what it has become today.
So that
So
travel club, what was the travel club like? What was the sort of product that you had available then? What did you have access to?
we had access. It's like a membership. Think of a gym membership. So it had access to perks like your airport lounges to worldwide coverage and help. It had obviously we could book our flights, our hotels, accommodation, um, and whatnot. So imagine sort of perks of like a gym membership or whatnot, and a similar concept as well. But some those were just to name a few of our perks as well. Been so long ago that I've probably missed out one or two,
No,
but
no,
it
that's
served
right.
well. It served a good purpose while it was there.
And there are companies starting up every day offering that as a travel product as well. I was speaking to someone just maybe a few months ago, starting a new start in the UK, and saying to them, well, just be aware of the amount of regulation involved in the travel industry. And if you're what's good for the States isn't necessarily good for the UK. And so there is that establishment time of sort of developing a product specific for each country. But also, that it just shows there are lots of different models out there as well. There's not just the travel agency model. You can, just join essentially a perks program and things like that and benefit from it personally. And yeah, you might be able to get bits and pieces for your friends, but it's not really an earning opportunity, is it? And that's really what we're both in, because we're in the same company. So there's technically two companies that we are in the same running with together. And what really is the difference to sort of today with the product we have today from then? It's I suppose it is night and day really on what it is.
Yeah, very night and day. So the obviously what we have now is our own online booking portal. We've got partnerships with over 90 suppliers. Imagine that we've got our own Booking.com or Expedia on steroids, like just to just to highlight. So yeah, very night and day. We can, we book holidays for our customers, our clients, like as a traditional travel agent would in the high street, but except we get to do it from the comfort of our own home, or or if we're out in your coffee shops. Hell, I've booked holidays for people while I've been abroad before. That's the flexibility of what we've got as
Mm.
well. as
And I
well.
think,
So
yeah,
it's yeah.
and you know, there's sort of different models of how you could get one of these online travel agencies as well. I mean, that's sort of where I was, and we'll get into a bit along the way of where perhaps I was. But I was in you know, been in the travel industry, had contacts with it for, you know, either working in it or associated with it for nearly 3 decades now. Feeling an age, had hair, definitely a lot of hair when I started, and yeah. So I think with that is that there's lots of different models. I certainly owned quite a expensive franchise travel business before I joined this company, and you know, one of the benefits for them is because it's expensive. There's you know, you get a lot of bits and pieces. You get a laptop with it, but you've actually paid for it within your franchise fee and all bits and pieces like that. And you know, it's great. And there's certainly, you know, lots and lots of advantages we could argue for that. But I suppose the main advantage of going for this type of thing, where you work as you have your own independent travel agency, you're essentially an independent contractor as such, is that it doesn't have those high franchise fees, those high, you know, sort of points of entry. It was a very low cost for you to get involved, and every time this business evolves and evolves, it just pays out more value. Would you say that's your take on it?
Yeah, definitely. It's no, I agree with that. I mean one of the important factors of joining our company was, you know, the startup costs as well as the occurring overhead costs. I mean, you're alluding to the franchisees to work with. I mean, there's so many of obviously of them out there. You can, you know, Google them and whatnot, but the cost,
Mm.
it does surprise me how much the cost varies for each sort of home working agency. Like, like it's staggering. But yeah, ours is so low compared to a majority, if not all of the others, as well as the monthly overheads that I don't understand what a really expensive one that runs into 4 or 5 figures would give you that we can give because we have the same perks, we have those same partnerships, we have the same accreditations like APTA and ATOL as well as Clear. So so it baffles me that there are
Mm.
others out there that can charge so much. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of those companies, so I'm not here to preach or
No,
to
no, no, no. That's
bad
it.
trash
No,
other
it.
companies.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
just
mean, and do your
yeah,
research, folks, is the thing to do. See, you know, and it, that's we'll obviously have links in the description notes to all to this, but for our business. But you know, do your research. But I think what the big thing is to just distinguish there are different models that you can get involved with. You can still have your own business, still own your own business, own your own clients list, which with some of the franchises actually you don't own the client list, which is kind of a bit crazy.
yeah,
And there's a lot of contractual things like sort of barriers, but you know, it's horses for courses, what's right for you. But just remember when you're looking at franchises, just sort of break down what actually is the value of what you're paying for. Yes, you might get a laptop or this trip or that trip, but actually you're paying for it anyway. So if you were to pay that out of your own pocket, if you got what I mean, if you joined a business like ours and then you decided you needed a laptop, you bought a laptop, you decided you needed to go on a team retreat, you paid for that team retreat, would it be a lot less than that big franchise fee? That's your judgment. But it's certainly something which after I moved to this business, might have felt a little bit foolish, personally, for the situation I was in and what I'd paid for a franchise fee. But I wouldn't regret that because, you know, it's kind of one of those things where I definitely got the education, the experience, and the return that I felt was worthwhile for the investment. But what would my investment have been if I'd have joined a low cost entry? Well, we can't say, can we? Because you know, we can't go back on history. But you know, on that, you know, there's another element to the business that we do. We're travel agents, and and you know, I'm going to talk about another way apart from franchising, apart from the way we do, where you can also earn income as well from travel bookings. But and we'll evaluate that. But let's talk about there's a another way that we earn business as mentors, as affiliates as well, through a sort of married business, the business we're in. Do you want to sort of talk a bit about that?
Yeah, no, definitely, because it's a major part, it's a major element of what we do. Um, so yeah. So apart from being able to book travel, um, like a travel agent and whatnot, we have an affiliate side as well, where you can help sponsor people into the company. So not only can you earn from booking travel and making direct commissions as well, you can earn residuals from sponsoring those. To give you an example, there are plenty of people out there that like to book their own travel and book it online, do the research, websites like Skyscanner, Booking.com, Expedia, or Podo, you name it, Kayak as well. Um, and whatnot. The only difference between them and someone like yourself, Dan, is that you get paid for booking those trips and they don't. That they know the money that they spend booking those trips goes to a robot or a website on the other side of that IP address, if you will, that computer connection. So
Oh, that's right. And
essentially, just
you've
yeah,
yeah, you've hit on a really good point there actually, is that we don't add a fee onto you know, what the cost of what we're booking for people as independent travel agents. We essentially have agreements with these suppliers. So imagine we've got millions and millions of holiday options, thousands and thousands of vendors through, sort of almost 100 suppliers, because we deal with feeds and key suppliers. We don't just go
mhm,
with any supplier. We want to deal with the
yeah,
ones that give the right service, the right price. And then and then what we actually do there is we're actually getting commission from the supplier. So we're not charging a fee on top. And that's how our model works. Gives that way it gives a competitive and a good value product to the customer. And also we're winning because we're getting commission, and the suppliers are winning because they might not have had that booking with that customer if you hadn't recommended it. They may have gone elsewhere. So we're a channel of distribution for suppliers. That's essentially it, isn't it? And you know it's a lovely model. And what you also touched on there is that we've got an fit. You said, talked about sponsoring people into the business. So essentially we've got two businesses that we operate with. We operate with the travel agency, where we're a independent contractor. We're independent travel agent is the term we use, where we're booking travel, but also we're associated with the company that has the exclusive rights to sign people up to a travel business. So imagine one company selling travel through us as travel agents, one company selling the travel agency through that company. And it's a really nice model. And wow, what I mean, it's a great tribe as well, isn't it? It's a great group of people.
yeah, definitely. And I think one major thing that attracted me to it, was the support and mentoring we get, because the fact of the matter is, and it's very well documented, like, a reason that a new business fails, whether it be an online business or one on the high street, is lack of guidance. And and the and obviously going into an industry that I'd never been into before, the important thing for me was, one, the training I would get, and it's always ongoing. Obviously, new trends come out, new travel products come out, suppliers have new say, destinations, hotels, whatever. We learn about those, and it's always ever changing as well. And secondly, the mentoring we get to help build that, the systems that we're taught as well, and the mentoring we get to help others do the same as us as well. Because on the face of it, it's it can sound daunting, but having that help and that guidance really makes it easier, and in terms of understanding how it all works as well. And I think just being able to do it at our own pace is really is key as well. There's no deadlines, there's no sales targets to hit or whatever. It's done at our own pace, and it's just that's a cliche thing, but we get out what we put into it as
Mm.
well. But no, that's something that you've enjoyed yourself actually out of it as well.
Yeah, done at our own pace. That's what I really love about the business we're in. And it's probably an important thing evaluate when you're looking at an opportunity. So, if you're looking at franchise, some other model, something like that, it's like, how much effort are you going to put in? Are you contractually obliged to put a certain amount of effort in? There are franchises out there where you have to have a certain amount of time logged onto the computer, or there are, if you want to release all the benefits and all the commission rate, you have to, do certain amount of bookings, um, as which is, something worth considering and worth asking when you're evaluating different businesses. I know certainly with our one, there's like you said, there's no quotas, there's no targets you have to hit. We have a very, very high commissionable rate on our travel bookings, as standard. And then if you really excel, there's a boost as well. So you go,
Yeah,
so which is great. Just had one of my, people that I mentor, just recently just go up that extra little boost, and they'd forgotten all about it. And I was just like, they go, for some reason I'm getting more commission. And I was just like, oh, this is why. So it just go to show as well, you show also confidence in a system that's gonna actually do it for you, regardless of whether you remember or not. um, but yeah, I think that's a great thing. I mean, and we talked about sort of you bringing people into the business and helping to mentor them, and all the different directions of mentorship. For instance, like, you help mentor me, I help, I might give my 2 cents to you sometimes, and there's people who have brought, for instance, brought you in, or the person that brought that in, and there's a lot of sort of dual membership, mentorship. So it might be, there's always a person that's particularly strong in one area, and they'll share their advice on that. And the idea, and so you can, sort of leverage their knowledge on that, but make sure it's two-way leverage, and always bring something to the party yourself, even if it's just be keen and very engaged. But, someone's always going to be good on something. For instance, for me, if someone said, how do I blow up on TikTok? I'd be like, I could probably explain the fundamentals, but hey, I'm just perhaps not the best person to ask, but this person is. And but if you want to know how to go YouTube partner, this channel actually we're recording at the moment isn't YouTube partner, but I do have a YouTube partner channel, and so I can tell you how to achieve that. And hopefully, if these aren't too grueling, these podcasts will go there with that as well on my, because we're obviously recording this podcast as a dual podcast and YouTube podcast as well. So, I mean, on that, you've brought people into the business, you've mentored them. Have all of them stayed in the business?
no, 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 not all of them have stayed, and I mean, and that's a natural thing. Like, 100% retention is unheard of for whatever the industry. And there's various of reasons. Like, some people just feel this isn't for them, which is fair. Like, I've done things in different industries, so I realised not for me. But been other industries I've been involved in, sports as well, to name a couple, to name another one. Um, as well. And naturally, and there's various of reasons people won't stay. Some people don't feel like the return they're getting is worth it. Some people aren't getting out as much as they feel they're putting in. Some people don't feel they've got the time to do it. Some people just decided they don't enjoy what we do, which is fair.
Hmm.
Again, this boils down to just letting, at the end of it, think of it this way: these are grown adults deciding to invest to join our travel company. So you think what we have here, we have one of the perks we have for joining is a 30-day money back guarantee. So, if for some reason they're not satisfied with what they have within the first 30 days, they can get their money back that they've invested, no questions asked. And I would say, and to give my 2 pence on it, I would say, 27, 28 days is more than enough to test out what we've got, do the initial training, because you've got to do your GDPR and APTA training and ATOL training before you can start booking travel and what have you. And be able to have a look at the two websites of both companies. And not only that, we've also got a profit guarantee assurance. So if within your first year you've not made more than you've invested, because there is a monthly overhead, which is very small. It's less than a cup of coffee a day. So yeah, but as long as you know
And
you
a cheap cup
participate
of
in the
coffee at
trainings,
that.
yeah, I'll agree with that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And whatnot. So yeah, as long as you participated in like trainings, you know, you've made bookings and what have you, our company will cut you a check to make sure that at worst case scenario, you've broken even in your first year, which, you know, which is pretty sort of staggering when you think that, you know, rarely any businesses on the high street or ones that you start from scratch will make a profit within the first 2, 3 years, never mind being breaking even within their first years. You know, they'll be at a loss still within those 2, 3 years. So no, I mean,
Yeah.
and there's various reasons. No, and yeah, various reasons that you know people don't stay. But hi ho, like we're not here to convince people to stay. If people want to stay, great. You know, there's you know a lot of potential with this, and if they don't, the company goes on without the company will go on regardless of where the hell we even stay and whatnot.
Yes,
Just
yeah,
to
that's
give you an
that's
idea.
that's true. We like to think we're really valuable in our company and real linchpins. And we'll maybe get onto a little story about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But I think the 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 sort of thing with it as well is because for those at the time of recording, there's over 120,000 agents globally in our travel business. I think it's something like 122,000 agents, something like act, and these are active agents. These aren't people that have joined and then gone. These are active agents. So, which is pretty impressive number. And the thing that gives us is posture because we know that it works. We know the business works, and the only reason then it wouldn't work is that it just doesn't work for you. And I think that's another good reason in your well, another good thing to highlight in your evaluation process of a business is like what's my liability? What's my you know if I do this, get all excited, join it, start doing it, and then in the first month, I think oh, do you know what? I'm just not right for this because it won't be that it doesn't work because it's working for over 120,000 agents, but it's just like I'm not right for this. I didn't realize it would quite work. Great money back guarantee. So like Marwan said, it's that simple. But if you know you think, well, it's got might take me a little bit longer than a month to evaluate this, then you've got that 12-month profit guarantee, which is weird because imagine if you opened up a shop, you know, and this is actually, I'm stealing one of your examples, Marwan, you know, imagine if you opened up a shop and, you know, you went to landlord at the end of the year and goes, I'm not quite made of the money I thought. Can I have some of that rent back? He's going to laugh at you. But no, this is how this particular opportunity we're in works. So it's worth always evaluating what's your commitment ongoing because obviously you pay in advance with our business with your initial investment and then your little monthly fees, and so you always pay in advance. So there's nothing to pay. You if you wanted to leave, you could just leave, and that you know there'd be no consequences. There's no non-compete clause when you do leave. You know that we talked about the travel business I was with before, a different you know a franchise, and I had a whole year where I wasn't allowed to operate as a travel agent contractually, and they could have taken me to court if I did. So, and you know we'll perhaps talk on what I did in that year of wilderness as well, but but you know what we're that's a good thing to evaluate, right? Is you know what's your liability, what's all that, what's and so really good to highlight that. Thank you for that, Mark, because that was really good value on our topic of starting. But you know, and you've talked about people leaving that, but if you have had you know sort of anyone leave sort of the business through quite maybe in a quite an emotional way, you know, perhaps something has occurred, you know, like real you know sort of either trauma or anything more serious you know where they haven't been able to continue with the business any longer.
Um, Yeah, so during the COVID pandemic here, there was a guy I sponsored, lovely guy. He was such an interesting guy. You know, had such a cool story, cool background, um, and everything. And you know, someone who was, you know, participating a lot in trainings and whatnot. And then sadly I found out that, you know, he hadn't I think for a couple of months he was on it all the time doing sort of launch webinars and everything and you know really sort of kept me busy, with asking for my help and mentorship with his training, which of course I'm more than happy to do, um, and everything. So was working with him, near enough 24/7. I think there was a couple of weeks period where I didn't hear from him. And I think the first I got a message saying he had some personal stuff. When someone's got personal issues and they message you, you give people space. That's just the courteous thing to do. And then a couple of weeks passed by, and then his wife had messaged me to tell me they'd passed away sadly through COVID, and that was during the pandemic year. So yeah, it was obviously really sad because although we'd only known each other a couple of months, we formed that bond, that connection as well. And at the end of it, when someone passes, like business goes out of the window. This was a guy who had a young kid as well. So there's a young kid that's basically going to grow up without having a dad from like an adolescent age, a wife who's obviously lost the love of her life as well. So yeah, so you can only, obviously offer condolences, just, you know, even though, she hardly knew me, still offering to, assist where you can as well, because at the end of it, what they're going through, you can't imagine, the emotional and the mental, trauma that they're going to go through with that as well.
You've
And
been talking about the trauma to them, though, Marwin. I mean, what
yeah,
about the trauma to you? I mean, this is COVID in the travel industry, so probably
oh Christ, yeah,
the most affected industry during COVID, during a pandemic, and planes weren't flying, people were in lockdown. People weren't able to leave their homes, and so obviously that your travel agency, there's no bookings, and you're probably dealing with cancellations as well. I know I certainly dealt with quite a few, and then you're losing mentees as well, and then all the other issues you're having to deal with as an individual. I mean, how did that impact you? At that time.
uh, I mean, looking back on it, I mean, I don't know if I tried to compartmentalize it because there was so much going on. Like you're alluding to, obviously dealing with cancellations and COVID year. Now we could, and you'll know this very well. We could still book travel for people because booking conditions became so flexible. People could, you know, postpone their trips for 1, even up to 2 years. But as you well know, in the travel industry, you only get paid commission once the date of travel has passed as well. So I knew of people booking 50, 60 grand holidays and cruise ships, and cruises and whatnot. But of course, it doesn't mean much if that doesn't actually take place as well. But it was a good way to keep people ticking over and whatnot in the industry, and having to deal with cancellations and whatnot, and all the uncertainty because the industry itself didn't get much assistance. But in terms of obviously having to deal with the death of someone I was mentoring as well, yeah, obviously it wasn't good. It was hard, and it may have been hard and stuff, and a lot of strain and stuff, having to juggle a few things. And of course, I took on doing an extra job to keep the pennies rolling in. But the fact of the matter is, and whilst what I was feeling was valid compared to what obviously his wife and kid were going through, I'm not trying to play down what I was feeling, but it doesn't compare.
So, so you've sort of been through that. I know it's an overused word, the journey. You've been through the journey of
Yeah,
like sort of nurturing people, bringing people into a business, and you've taken the option to mentor them as well. Because you can act just as an affiliate that brings people in and then plug them into a
yeah,
mentor. But you've been mentoring people in this business, and then sadly, one reason or other, some might leave for whatever reason, personal reasons. Some, someone's passed away, and you've also lost potential people that were joining you passed away, and you've dealt with all the other stuff to do with the pandemic as well. Then your journey with the travel business started with a message. Someone messaged you on LinkedIn.
yeah.
What you know this is perhaps a good place to mention where how we connected, and
Go on.
I don't know who tells this story best or worst,
I'm
but
I'm
when
happy
we
doing it
first
if you want me to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we first met at a networking event, didn't we? To explain a bit about that.
Yeah, so every first, second, third Friday, there were networking events around Brighton, and yeah, so this would have been at the Pitcher and Piano bit near the pier. And yeah, we obviously you go around, for those that don't know, with networking events, it's your chance to meet people, to network, exchange business cards. You never know who you're going to meet. And that, I mean, in terms of our dynamic, that's really true. Um, and obviously we'd met. And I remember this would have been back, what was it, 2016 or 17? This would have been when we still had the travel club. Because I remember when we met, you yourself has said you kept an eye on our company for years, even before they'd entered the UK, and that you just started up, with your travel franchise and whatnot. And which was obviously in my head. I remember saying to you, oh, that's a shame we hadn't met, blah, 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 blah. But here's what it is. And then we just carried on chatting for our, mutual passion of travel, and what have you. And no, it was really cool. I really enjoyed chatting. We'd met probably two or three times because I remember
That's right.
you obviously came to a future event for obviously your other stuff that you do outside of your business and stuff. But I think
That's
the
right. I
thing
was
that
there
was
for one
key,
of my
yeah,
non-profits or something like that. Yeah,
correct.
yeah. In Lewis, I
Correct.
think it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Correct with that. One thing I remembered is that when it comes to people that do what we do in our home-based businesses and sponsoring others, like there's this kind of sort of stigma that when you meet people that do the same thing as you, but for maybe a rival company or a rival home working group or whatever, like you kind of have that animosity, rivalry, so to speak. But there was none of that with us. We were just, we're chatting. The fact of the matter is, like with networking events, I think you should always go with the mentality of you just never know what's going to happen. Not in terms of the direct meeting you might have with someone, but you never know who that person might know and whatnot. Hell, one of my largest bookings I've done was for a band that were doing a tour, and I met the main guy that manages them in the Amalfi Coast in Italy, and literally a 15-minute chat and with the guy turned into one of my largest bookings, um, and whatnot. So that's what I mean. You can't. It's easy to say don't prejudge, but it's I think it's maybe something that's kind of hidden in our psyche to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And on that very, on a quick tangent, you are speaking to award-winning travel agents here. You got an award, didn't you? For I remember you.
Yeah,
You keep very quiet about this, but you did get given an award by the company, didn't you?
yeah, yeah. Not that I don't like to brag or whatever, and 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 whatnot. But yeah, so this was back at our first, big event for yeah, our first big event in 2019. It was at the Hilton in Glasgow, and it was basically an award for going above and beyond for a client. So um, and whatnot, like an unsung hero sort of thing, you could call it. Maybe I'll call it that because I like the sound of being called an unsung hero.
Yeah, yeah.
And so so yeah, yeah, it's what was it? So I had a client he was going to New York, and he works in the sports industry, and I think he was going to meet a player or something like that. But there was going to be him and two others, and there were basically he speaks to me, rings me. I'm going to New York next week. Not booked the hotel yet. Can you find something for us? And I'm like, 1 week's notice in New York. I'm like, oh, you're. I mean, I just said, yeah, I'll have a look. But in my head, I'm thinking, you're really optimistic, aren't you? Because trying to book in New York and whatever. I mean, mind you, what helped me and what was lucky was that the meeting was going to take place in New Jersey, um, and whatnot. So he's flexible in where he needs to stay. So and this guy he prefers to stay in Hilton's. We all have that hotel preference that we like. Or brands that we identify by. And it's not even just hotels, like the clothing brand or shoe brands. When you look at footballers or Formula One, any sports athletes that has a clothing deal with a company, tennis players, you see it commonly. So I kind of equate that with people that might have a preference for a certain type of hotel or villa they like to stay in. Um, and so there was a so after yeah, it didn't take me long to search actually. Yeah, found the Hilton Hotel where Penn Station is near Newark, And because it had direct links to Manhattan, to Penn Station in New York, and it had and the location for where they were flying to was perfect because they actually were flying into Newark rather than JFK. Or even, I mean, LaGuardia is more used for internal flights, but um, yeah, so it had direct public transport links to Newark. The meeting was taking place in New Jersey, and and for the times they needed to be in New York, it was easy access for them as well. And yeah, so we got that sorted. And because this client is a guy that likes to search for himself as well to compare, which is fair. Well, they're all
Mhm.
entitled to do that. And it turned out that we were, what, about 150, 200 quid cheaper, if I recall correctly,
Wow.
and just needing and I had to email Hilton because of the configuration of the room because there's three of them, and they were happy to share a room, but they just needed to know how many beds or if they needed to pay extra for a roll away to be brought in or whatever. But no, it all worked out swimmingly, and whatnot. So it's just having to sort that like, in a same day scenario as well when they had a week's notice. It's not the easiest thing, despite how big the state is and whatnot. Commonly when and I've done New York bookings before. Commonly when you book for people to go to New York, it is generally one you do a few months in advance at least. I'm pretty sure you would have
Yeah.
done a few of those yourself.
Yeah, I think I can't think of I've ever booked to New York that close to the deadline. I've done quite a few, but I've never, yeah, that's because there's different things, and also like especially with a special room configuration, that's you want to make sure that is absolutely secured, because booking that close to departure, it could be that all those types of rooms that allow that have gone. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And you got the commission, got the
It was
award.
a great. I'll tell you a funny story about the commission I got for that. I'll tell you that in a second. But I think the most satisfying thing was getting a message, saying a big thank you for your help, whatever. That for me is worth more than the commission you get. Is when you get a client messaging you that, and everything
Yeah.
because it look for our role and stuff like that in terms of just the travel agency role. It's not just simply booking and just making the money out of it. We go above and beyond. Like I know you can tell a story about before going to Malta and whatnot. Whether
Yes.
you tell it now or another time, but we go above and beyond. I've spoke to the hotel, to actually ring them to make sure, rather than emailing because I need to know ASAP um, as well. And yeah, just ringing them, having to make sure everything was in place because at the end of it, this is the difference between you know our service versus booking it online. Like you're not
Mhm.
gonna, Chat GPT isn't going to be able to search that stuff for you, but we can, and
Yeah.
we'll go above and beyond for that.
And you know what? It sounds like it's a lot of work, but it's not really, is it? When
No,
you know what you're doing and you leverage the experience of people like yourself and me that have done things, but it's not a great arduous task to like sort of you know contact a hotel and just check this or that. So it's just knowing how, and also you can avoid a lot of sort of issues by being organized in the first place. So all my customers, for instance, go away with both as a document and as a photo that I try to get it onto their WhatsApp if possible, but or print it out for them, whatever's going to work for them best. They keep with their passport or something like that, of all the emergency contacts and who to contact in what scenario, so that basically they're not ringing me at 3 in the morning if their transfer's not there. I'm
mm,
they're ringing the emergency contact for the supplier of the transfer, and that then it gets resolved because we only deal with suppliers that resolve stuff. So we always got those things, and that is the difference between booking with someone like us and just booking blindly on the internet. We also you do those extra little bits because particularly if the commissions are good, you can afford to as well. And i
yeah,
i had one going to New York as well, and I'd like some of my customers who perhaps particularly can't aren't able to print documents, or might not have a computer and stuff like that, I'll print the documents for them, post them to them. And so I did that with one customer going to New York. And I also included a little guidebook because, there's a lot of commission on it. It's £10 for a guidebook from wherever. So enclosed that in the envelope, sent it, went down to the post office, posted it off. Nice little touch because, as well, remember, your next best customer is your last customer. Retain those customers. You don't need to do massively great things, but if you can afford to do little things like add a guidebook, great, do that. So I did that. And then I did that probably because of one of the suppliers we were using, couldn't get all the documents until the week they were departing. So I posted it, a little message a few days before. Have you received in the post your documents and that and the little guidebook? No, I haven't. All right. Okay. Have you had a little red card through the door from the post office saying no? No, I haven't. Have you checked in or around any wheelie bins? No, there's nothing there. Right. Okay. Well, you're going to definitely need these documents because there was one, I think the airline they were using, you needed certain check-in reference or so. It was an unusual check-in service for that particular airline. So what I needed to do was get those documents to them, but I only had like a couple of days. And so I thought rather than post them again and them not get delivered, because I was figuring there's going to be something to do with a letterbox or something like that. Um, I'll I'm actually going to the airport to fly out to Malta. And so what and they lived en route to the airport. They actually live quite near the airport. So on my way to the airport, I just left sort of 20 minutes, half hour earlier than I normally would. And I warned the customer I'd be about 4 in the morning. You're going to get something through your letterbox. And sure enough, I got there and they had one of those tiny, tiny little letterboxes, which how do you get anything through that? So luckily I hadn't done the guidebook that time because I figured that guidebooks might end up turning up on the next day anyway. But I just folded the large envelope in half and posted it through because it was just documents. And we're okay. And I went off, caught my flight to Malta, and we had amazing group retreat in Malta where we did
Good.
training, a lot of socializing, some quality eating as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
Any trip
Definitely.
involving you and me has quality eating. But yeah, I mean
Definitely.
that was great, and that just shows just how why there's a value proposition to what we do as well. But
Yeah.
our journey. So we'd met couple of times in at networking things like back. I think 2018 might have been the last one, possibly
Yeah.
2019. And I, what you get, you gave me something, didn't you? You gave me something.
I gave you a business card, didn't I? It's just, it's the thing we do. I think, and remember that you gave us one as well. And yeah, just and as I say, you never know. But obviously, at that time, when we're looking at perspective, it's unlikely that we would ever,
No, because I was in
contact.
a travel
But
business, you were in a travel business, why?
yeah,
But we just did the courtesy of exchanging business cards. We'd had a nice chat. Um,
it's the respect as well. Like,
mm,
if you have respect for one another, that's minimum. Like, I always think if you're nice to people, they're nice back to you. And the main thing is, you show, so, respect and courtesy to them and manners. And yeah, you're meeting people for the first time, impressions and everything. So yeah, and we'd always had good chats about something that we have a mutual like for and mutual love for, even.
mm. So fast forward a few years into the future. I think it was when was it? Was it 2022 or 2023? I
I
can't even
think it was
remember now.
23. I think it was
23.
2023.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
very beginning of 2023, and I'd served my year in purgatory from this other business where I wasn't allowed to be a travel agent, but I was able to have affiliate links on a website to promote travel. So that's quickly mentioning that I had affiliate links on a website, went with a affiliate marketing, well, no, not really a truly, yeah, I suppose it was affiliate marketing host company where I was able to generate leads. I pay a little fee for that to join them. I had to go through a certain criteria, put all my different social media and website, info with that, put those links onto my website and my social, so generate a little bit of income. When if some would pay for clicks, not really though, most would pay if they clicked, and then they accepted the cookies, and then and then they actually bought something, and it was kind of 50-50 whether the links would drop out on some of those. So some people you speak to that use your affiliate link and you didn't get any commission, and some did pay out, but they're very low percentage commissions, some less than 1% commission, which is quite low, isn't it? Because I mean, the average like sort of total commission percentage in our sort of industries around sort of 10 to 15%, can be more, can be less, depends on the product. Um, and we retain the lion's share of that. So it's a lot more money in the business we're doing, but I was doing that affiliate thing because I couldn't do anything else, and it gave me a good chance to sort of evaluate that. Also had someone who's in this business now as well who was doing the same, who said, yeah, I'm after monetizing my social. I said, well, I'm doing this, it's not as good as the other thing, but I've got no other option, and if you want something just to test the theory, do that, see whether there's customers there. So she made more money than me on her affiliate links. And
Not that good. It turned out good.
but still wasn't very good at all, and then you sort of right, I want to join, I'm ready to join a new business. I knew this was going to be the business I wanted to join, but when I'd taken your card years ago, I put it into my database. I typed it up into my little, I have a what called a CRM, a customer relationship management software. And essentially, what it is it's just like a very sophisticated version of a spreadsheet. You could use a spreadsheet. In fact, you could even just keep the cards. And so I put Marwan's all his details into there and saved it. And then when I switched companies, for very legal reasons, stuff like that, I had to sort of download my database, switch, and then when I reactivated it, I had to reload all the information, and the information got loaded a bit corrupted. And I was like, oh no, I was typing all sorts of stuff, couldn't find you, company name, stuff like that. I'd forgotten his first name. So I've forgotten his last name. So I was just like typing the company name, trying to find, couldn't find it. And then I went on to LinkedIn. So it circles back to that LinkedIn again. And I
Oh,
typed in a name and I just looked through like everyone in the Brighton area, because I knew we were both from the Brighton area, looked through on LinkedIn, everyone in the Brighton area of that company, and I go, that looks like him. Clicked on it, read his name. Yeah, that's him. That's the guy. So I did a little bit of online stalking for this individual, and I went back to my little database and typed in his name, and he popped up. He popped up on my CRM system, and it had a phone number. So I think I texted you, didn't I? Going, hey, might not remember me. We met at so and so market, networking thing. I was with so and so company. I'm now looking to join a new company. Are you still an affiliate with this company? Which and he messaged back, very much so. Do you want to chat? And so we had a chat, didn't we?
yeah. It was. It's funny because when I saw that message, I remember I came back from it's a very hard day, a bit of a slog of work. Um, And I remember seeing your message, and it's weird. I recognized your name straight away because I remember asking about your surname because obviously you've got Hungarian ancestry and
That's right.
whatnot. And one thing I remembered was that where you live a couple of minutes drive from my brother, and I know we spoke about that because not to divert too much. My
Hmm.
brother lives in the shared service because he's high functioning autism, and whatnot, and you live very close to the guy. I mean, to drive to yours, I have to go past where he lives,
Yeah,
basically.
it's very close,
Well,
very close.
but yeah, 2 minutes and whatnot on the
Hmm.
car. But yeah, but I digress. So yeah, so I remember seeing that message, and And my first thought was, I was like, I remember you with this franchise, and my first thought was, I wonder what happened there. And obviously, we run, we caught up, and I think it was funny because the first minute or so, I think you were trying to gauge if I remembered you, and then when I rehashed about my brother, you knew that I remembered you, and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah, that was it.
And
Was it. That was a really good memory as
and
well.
uh, uh, and
Yeah.
um and obviously knew the franchise group you're with because I've met one thing about our industry is that when we do supplier events or travel events, we'll meet people from all other home posting agencies and home working agencies, and and frankly every time I've met people from the one you've worked with, always been great to us, always been a pleasure to chat to and good to deal with it. And yeah, but anyway, so we spoke for ages and whatnot. And I remember we had one of our big London events coming up. And but I think first of all, I think of course I think we after catching up, I think we must have spoke for 2 hours. I only
Mhm.
expected to be a 20-minute chat or something, if that. But we spoke for about 2 hours, as it becomes our
I think
regular
this is why this
chat.
podcast is probably going to be so long. Sorry, guys, we get talking. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, bounce off. This is what happens when you bounce off one another. But yeah, of course you had questions and stuff, and obviously it
I
wasn't.
had just a few questions, didn't I?
Oh Christ, did you have a few? You had about 10, but it wasn't even just that. But like, it wasn't a case of I'm going to chat to you, send you my link, and you get started. It was like, cool, we do daily webinars. You jump to one of those. It was like, cool, great. I've got these questions, and obviously I answered whatever. I think there was 10 of them. I answered 8 of them. Like I knew the answers. I typed and I said, cool,
I think there was actually 20 folks that I had. That's
20. It felt like 20. I'll tell you that.
yes.
But and I just said, give us. I'm just going to ask the question because I'd rather not give you a half-ass answer or a guess. So let me give you, and that's another thing. Like, be open and be honest with one another as well, because you need to establish that
Mm.
trust straight away. Because otherwise, if you start off on a bad foot, then it's the whole thing of you start as you mean to go on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah, so got those questions answered, and I remember just thinking, are you free Saturday? Come up to London, I'll get you into the event for free, get started with this. And then that was a good way really to introduce you to what we've got and the kind of support that we have because I could introduce you to my support network straight away, the people that mentor me so that, they could put a name to the face and whatnot. And then it kind of was a good introduction in my, personal opinion. And I suppose, if you're going to be stalked, that's the way to be stalked as well. I'll happily take that.
Yeah, that's it. It's what we called reverse prospecting. It's literally. I mean, but that just goes to show if he hadn't given me that card, I probably wouldn't have bothered. I just would have gone and found, tried to find someone that I thought was good in that business or something like that, and just tried to sign up with them through them. But because I'd met the guy, I knew I got on well with him. I think I'd even made that note on my little CRM system, and and this is where his head explodes from getting too big, folks. And I thought, do you know what? If I'm going to join a business and you know get benefit from someone that knows what he's doing, that someone that I get on with. I think that's probably the most important thing rather than experience as well. I mean, yeah, it's great if you can join people who've got the level of experience that Marwin has, that I have, but you may just join with business with someone that you just get on with because you're going to want to have a nice working environment, and we have a great laugh. We do other little projects aside to this, don't we? We run a business networking sort of
Yeah.
thing together as well. So we that's great as well. We have a great laugh at that. We have competition for choosing the best restaurants. I think Marwin's well up at the moment, but I've had a couple of good
You
wins.
have your moments. I'll tell you what, Naples. We'll touch on that in another podcast. But I'll
Yeah,
tell you
yeah.
what, that yeah, you have your moments. I feel like my influence has been showing very well in you, and whatnot. But I agree with you in terms of like picking someone that you just get on with. But I think also one thing that's underrated in finding a mentor is actually finding someone that's a good example. And that was
Yes.
a lesson that I learned the hard way when I was in health and wellness. And health even when I was in with our previous travel company before we moved to the one that we're with, um, as well, that that because kind of like I find that what people are generally taught is just you do as your mentor says, you follow their example, blah 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 blah, you don't question it. But I think from having Toby, David, John DaCosta as our mentors as well, it kind of showed this is what an example should be like, as well, and it's and it truly taught me that you don't necessarily have to follow the person or join the person that introduces to you. Do your research on that person. Would you be happy if you became half that person, hell, even a quarter or 10% of that
Yeah.
person, right? So it's so and things I've learned, like we have a collaborative approach, me and you, we will bounce ideas of each other, even though I'm technically as your mentor, we'll have a collaborative approach, and that's something that I've learned from
Mm.
Toby DaCosta, for example, as well. Although I'm humble enough to know that he knows more than I do, and that when I seek advice, I best listen and just take it in, as well. But we still have that collaborative approach like we do as well. But I understand in terms of us as well that there will be areas where you excel where I don't, and vice versa. And it's the same relation that I've got with my mentor Toby as well.
Yeah, and on that, I use Toby very much as a mentor as well. And the person that brought him to his business, David, as a mentor, and in John as well, which is like sort of not really directly linked to like sort of being introduced to the business in as far as like a he introduced him type system on affiliation, but he David introduced him, and the three brothers work together, and so it's a very supportive organization that we work with. And I think that's important. I think the biggest thing is listing out for clues when you're speaking to people as well, as far as are they as interested in your success as they're interested in their own.
Yep.
And I always get that 100% of the time from you, my friend. Big
Right.
compliment for you. Again, I'll get that pin to deflate your head, but and
Please, I can't hold it.
that's what I tend to do with my team as well. I have a little book. This is my book. There's actually a massive reward if I ever lose this book. In the front of it, it says what there's a reward for this book. And the reason for that is because, yes, on the very back page, it's got my, sort of personal why I'm doing this business, what my goals are, what my financial targets are, what I would do with that. Yes, that's great. But the most important pages to me is it has all the people I've introduced to the business, what they want to get out of it, what their why is, why are they doing this, what what their goals are, and what their financial figure is to achieve those goals. And for me, that's really valuable because then I can marry into their why they want to do this business, what they want to achieve, and really help support and mentor them to that. um and you're not managing. I never manage anyone. I'm not going into that management trap as a mentor. I'm just like sort of, well, my personal take is if I wanted to achieve what you wanted to achieve and achieve that level of money, I'd perhaps look at this. And but also be really willing to put in the effort to help support someone. I mean, we've got someone, we move just very quickly before we wrap up, away from the travel booking side of the business and to the introducing side of the business, the separate business, the affiliate income we have, where people can just introduce people into the business, or they can introduce people and mentor them. It's up to them how they want to do it. But we have someone that I brought into the business that is also introducing people into the business, and she had a travel party, right? And
Yes.
so obviously she had a travel party in her home. This is an optional thing you can do. It's just one method of getting your circle of influence might be interesting. You can do stuff with your people that don't know you, cold market stuff on social media, stuff like that. But and there's so many ways to attract people into the business. But we did a travel party, and she just invited her friends round, friends, family. There's a little bit of food, and then who turned up? I turned up.
I
I
turned
picked
up.
someone up. Yeah, you turned up. I picked you up along the way. And then also your sponsor, David
David.
DaCosta, who's a serious income earner with a lot of demands on his time. he turned up and did the presentation for us, didn't he?
Yeah, drove from London to Crawley. Um, And yeah, I mean, it's really sort of humbling to see that a guy who's done so well for himself in the business willingly gave up, well, not gave up, gave his time to
Mm.
to obviously come and help us. And you got to think David was the pioneer of our company when it transitioned into the UK, and saw everything. So he's the kind of guy that, I would say there's not many more you'd want to be mentored by, and yet we've got direct access to his mentorship as well, which is a blessing for us as
Yeah.
well.
So it's leveraging those layers of mentorship as well, which is really great because, generally, and hopefully it won't sound too big headed when I say this, but if someone wants advice on booking travel or how to run a travel agency, I've booked a fair few £1 million worth of travel over.
I'll vouch for you, Daniel. Don't worry, I'll vouch for you. Don't worry, I've got any spare pins if that head gets too big.
Yeah. So I kind of know where I'm at with that, and I'm doing quite well on the affiliate side and the mentoring side as well. But I do appreciate on the there are people who you want to get certain bits of knowledge, like particularly certain, for instance, travel destinations or riding those ups and downs of losing people and things like that. Hey, this guy on the podcast here, there's no one better, uh but then also as well is we spoke about David, we spoke about Toby, like growing a business, building a business of affiliates alongside your travel business. I mean, that's where they're absolute masters, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And the stuff they teach as well, like, there's a reason they give us whatever advice they give because it works. It's up to us whether, we take that on or whatnot. At the end of it, there's systems in place and there's a reason they're in place because they work. It's not a case of we know it all and, we're too
Yeah.
obviously too kind of single-minded or big-headed to try anything else. And plus things evolve and they're good at evolving with the times as well.
And that's why it's called mentorship and not management. You're joining a mentor. You can choose to ignore their advice. You could choose to ignore the processes that work, as long as you're still doing it within the confines of compliancy to stay active in your businesses. Because there will be different rules and things. Particularly, we mentioned the ABTA and ATOL sort of stuff, which we'll perhaps get into in future podcasts. But all that sort of business. There's it. So it's great that you have that independence, but you still have a support network. And your support network can be layered so that, anyone that was joining me or someone that I've introduced would be getting the benefit of yourself, would be getting the benefit of Toby, of David, etc. And sort of the wider community as well. The community is very supportive that we have of each other as well. If you ever come to one of our events, they're so everyone's wanting to support each other, or you get on one of our virtual calls and everyone's wanting to support and cheer each other on. Our WhatsApp groups can be insane sometimes, with the amount of support and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's what's lovely about when you join a business of this type. As if you were just sharing affiliate links for the affiliate thing, that would perhaps be something that would be lacking, as well as like the sort of levels of commission and stuff like that. So I've joined this business with you, and we're doing rather well, aren't we, together? It's
Definitely.
going really well. The future is bright. Because the present is glittering, and we really, I'm very excited with what's going on in the future. And do stay tuned to future podcasts to hear. We'll do some more what we call mad podcasts. That's Marwan and Dan. We'll do some of them. We're going to do some location focuses and all sorts. Um, but as well as these conventional type interviews, we've got lots of people, lots of top leaders and top producers in the travel industry and in business that we're going to be interviewing here on the Travel Business Mentor podcast. But it just really leads me to wrap up and say, Marwin, I'm so glad you introduced me to the business. Thank you for that. Or rather, I made you introduce me to the business.
Thank you for making me make you, to introduce you to the business. No, I mean, no, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you, working alongside you, seeing your growth, and everything. And every time I hear you get recognition, mate, honestly, I'm buzzing every time I hear that. And above all else,
I'm
mate, the friendship
obviously,
we've built along the
yeah,
way,
I'm too
the
modest to talk about all the recognition I get.
No, of course, I can tell
Too
your head is
modest.
definitely not getting bigger at all. But no, but not even just that. Like even the friendship we've built, I've been part of some of your charity fundraising events as well, and seeing those and
Mm.
meeting obviously your circle within that, and yeah, even just breaking bread with you every time we go out to eat after an event, just to like dissect everything and to plan and whatnot, and hosting our own business networking events, and above all else, the friendship. And I'm grateful for that. So yeah, let's keep it going. And I can't wait to see you hit the top.
Marwan, thank you so much again for letting me force you to introduce me to this business. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for today, for this amazing podcast. And you can reach Marwan at what's the best way to reach you?
Several ways. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Marwan Awar 23, or I've got my own travel blog, which you can contact me through that, which is www.homeandawar.com. Of course, just an FYI, the website will be going under will be redone soon and everything, but you can still reach out to me through that. But yeah, otherwise Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So yeah, look forward to hearing from you.
And I'll put all Marwan's links in the show notes in the box on YouTube, etc. And yeah, and you can reach me, I suppose, if you want to reach me. Obviously, you can comment on my YouTube channel, Travel Business Mentor, or go to travelbusinessmentor.com. That's been me, Dan Ori, with this story, and well, he loves that. He loves that. And thank you for tuning in. See you next week for another podcast.